Good. The room is filling up. That's really nice. Welcome everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Dwayne. This is great. You can tell this is a really important topic to everybody. Thank you all for coming. Gonna let a few more folks join. Hi, Josh. Hi, Dan's iPhone. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another installment of Economic Alliance Snohomish County's Coffee Chats. I'm your host, Wendy Poischbeg, Interim President and CEO of Economic Alliance Snohomish County. We would like to thank today's Coffee Chat sponsors, the Boeing Company. And for those of you who are joining us today via Zoom, please drop your name and organization in the chat. This morning, we welcome local leaders for an update on transportation projects underway in Snohomish County. And to participate in this vital conversation, please join me in welcoming Snohomish County Executive Dave Summers. Dave also serves as the Vice Chair of the Sound Transit Board of Directors. Executive, thank you for being here today. Mayor Cassie Franklin of the City of Everett. Mayor Franklin also serves as the member of the Sound Transit Board of Directors. Mayor, thank you for being here today. Mayor Christine Frizzell of the City of Lynnwood. Mayor Frizzell is also a member of both the Sound Transit and Community Transit Board of Directors. Mayor, thank you for your participation. Rick Ilgenfritz, who is the CEO of Community Transit. Rick, we're grateful to have you with us. And representing Sound Transit, Don Billen. Don is the Executive Director of Planning, Environment, and Project Development at Sound Transit. Don, thank you for joining us. Accompanying Don today are Randy Harlow, Executive Project Director for Lynnwood Link, and Eric Widstrand, North Corridor Development Director for Everett Link. They're on hand to answer any project-specific questions that may come up during today's discussion. Thank you both for joining us. To set the tone for today's discussion, Sound Transit and Community Transit will now provide a brief overview of current transportation projects and initiatives. First up, we have Don Billen of Sound Transit. Don, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Wendy, and good morning, everyone. It's really exciting to be here this morning to give you an overview of Sound Transit and some exciting openings that will be occurring in 2024. So, like the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County, Sound Transit is going through leadership transition. We recently had Jerron Sparman join the agency as our interim chief executive officer. And he's a well-known transportation leader in the region that we are excited to have at the agency. And he would have loved to have been here this morning, but prior to accepting the interim role, he had international travel plans. So he is out of the country, but I'm sure we'll look forward to future opportunities to engage with your organization. So I'm going to give just a brief overview of Sound Transit and then talk about the future of light rail in Snohomish County. So if we could go to the next slide. So the Sound Transit District covers the urbanized areas of Snohomish, King, and Pierce County. It makes up 40% of the state's population, and of course, as you're well aware, is really the economic engine of Washington State. So transportation and public transportation in particular are vital for not only Snohomish County, but the entire region and the entire state. I would also note that population forecasts indicate that our district will grow from just over 3 million residents to 3.8 million residents by 2040. So another 800,000 people moving in and needing vital transportation services. Sound Transit is governed by an 18-member board of local elected officials and the state secretary of transportation. And it's a pleasure to have 3 of our board members, all of our Snohomish County board members here this morning. And I would encourage them to jump in if there's any things that deserve highlighting from your perspective that I might miss. Go to the next slide. So currently, Sound Transit operates 2 light rail lines, one in King County between Northgate, the University of Washington, downtown Seattle, SeaTac, and a second in the downtown Tacoma area between the Tacoma Dome and the Hilltop neighborhood. We also operate Sounder commuter rail trains from Everett to Seattle and from Lakewood and Tacoma to Seattle. And then here in Snohomish County, currently really the workhorse of the Sound Transit system is our Sound Transit Express bus service, which provides all-day 2-way regional bus service between Snohomish County and King County, and is operated by our partner Community Transit, who you'll hear from in a minute. Next slide. Of course, we're in the midst of a very exciting growth period for the agency and the region. Projects that were approved in the 2008 Sound Transit 2 ballot measure are now under construction and will be opening over the next few years. And we're well into the planning work on the 2016 ballot measure, the ST3 program, that includes the extension of light rail to Everett, as well as south to Tacoma, west to West Seattle and Ballard, and then a line between Kirkland and Issaquah. Additionally, the program funds enhancements to our Sounder service and introduces the first Sound Transit delivered bus rapid transit system to the region that will operate in the I-405 corridor and the SR-522 corridor. Next slide. So as we look at the next couple of years, I'm going to start by talking about the line under construction to Bellevue and Redmond. And why am I starting this presentation by discussing light rail on the east side to a Snohomish County audience? Well, one reason is that our Sound Transit 2 system requires a second operations and maintenance facility for our light rail fleet. Currently, we have one facility just south of downtown Seattle, but to support the build out to the east side to Lynnwood and Federal Way, we need more storage and maintenance facility. And that facility is located in the Bellred area of the city of Bellevue. So until we can extend light rail across I-90, we don't have access to that facility to support full service to Lynnwood and Federal Way. So we're phasing our opening to the east side. In the spring, we'll have a starter line run between South Bellevue and Redmond, and that has no impact on our ability to extend to Lynnwood, operating the starter line. But then in 2025, the system will extend all the way across Lake Washington, and that will give us access to the second operations and maintenance facility and enable us to support full service on the Lynnwood Link line. So let's go to the next slide and talk about what you're probably most excited about this year from a Sound Transit perspective, which is the Lynnwood Link project that Randy Harlow is leading the construction of. It will extend light rail from Northgate to Lynnwood with 4 new stations. And when it opens late summer, early fall this year, it will operate as an extension of the existing one line that runs from SeaTac to Northgate. So it will open with service between SeaTac and Lynnwood in 2024. And our operations group is being as creative as they can to maximize the use of that existing maintenance facility that I mentioned is in just south of downtown Seattle, so that we can provide as much capacity as possible on this line when we open, because we expect it to be a very popular service with high demand and to be well integrated with the community transit network that Rick will talk about in a minute. But then in 2025, there'll be almost a second opening for Lynnwood Link, when we're able to extend the 2 line across Lake Washington and access that Bellevue operations and maintenance facility. Now we'll be able to run trains every 4 to 5 minutes rather than every 8 minutes when we open the first line this year. So it's going to be very exciting later this year when the 1 line is extended to Lynnwood, and then the service will get even better in 2025 when we introduce the 2 line from Redmond to Seattle to Lynnwood. Next slide. I also mentioned our STRIDE bus rapid transit program, and that program is in construction now. The S2 line will operate from Lynnwood to Bellevue, utilizing the express toll lanes on I-405 and inline bus stations that are under construction in partnership with WashDOT. So that'll be a very exciting connection between the light rail service at Lynnwood and downtown Bellevue, where you also have an additional light rail connection. And then the S3 line will operate between Bothell and Shoreline, with again a transfer to the Lynnwood Link system at the Shoreline South Station. And finally, the S1 line will run from Bellevue to Burien. And we're expecting these 3 lines to be delivered between 2027 and 2029. And I would note on the sustainability front that the agency did make the decision to make this 100% battery electric bus system. So it'll be a fully electrified bus rapid transit service. Next slide. So in addition to the openings that are coming in 2024, we are deep into the planning for the future extension of light rail from Lynnwood to Everett. Our board of directors last year identified the alternatives to study in a draft environmental impact statement, which is now in preparation. At 16.3 miles, this is the longest of the ST3 light rail extensions, and it will add 6 new stations in Lynnwood, Snohomish County, and the city of Everett. We are targeting opening this service between 2037 and 2041, depending upon financing and affordability. The line could either open all at once to Everett or be phased with initial service to Southwest Everett Industrial Center and then extending to downtown Everett. Go to the next slide. And that concludes my presentation. And Wendy, happy to take questions now or to hold them for after Rick's presentation.
Appreciate it. We'll just move on to Rick's presentation. I don't have anything specific in the chat, though I do have some specifics later on. Next, we will move over to Rick Ilgenfritz to provide a brief update from Community Transit.
Great. Can you hear me okay? All righty. Well, thank you, Don. Always a tough act to follow. I got a couple of slides here to share with you today that will show you visually and vividly how the bus transit network in Snohomish County will change as a result of the opening of the Lynnwood Link light rail segment. It's really important to showcase the fact that the benefits of the light rail investment to Snohomish County flow far beyond just the existence of the light rail service itself. Link will provide an undeniable improvement and upgrade in the commuter connection between Snohomish County and King County with that frequency, that speed and reliability that comes with a grade separated high capacity transit investment. And what that allows us to do as the primary bus provider in Snohomish County is to completely restructure our network and reinvest the service hours that we've committed to the Seattle market for almost 50 years now into improving local service and local connections within Snohomish County. So I'm going to walk through what that looks like here with a couple of slides. We've been working, and our board of directors has been working over the past 3 years to engage with all the communities of Snohomish County in a conversation about how to improve the bus transit network once Lynnwood Link opens. And last July, our board of directors adopted that plan. It's called it's the 2024 and Beyond Network. We're doing some significant service changes this year in March and September to correspond to the light rail opening. And then also as we go forward into 2025, we will continue to increase service and improve the frequency of service and the quality of the service as the light rail market matures and as our new routes mature as well. So this is going to be a phased scaling up of transit improvements across the whole county. Next slide, Martin. We start with the opening of the Orange Line Swift BRT service. Can you advance that, Martin? Looks like we might be having a technical problem. There we go. So in 53 days from now, we'll be opening this project, the Orange Line project. This is a bus rapid transit investment connecting communities in South Snohomish County east to west from Mill Creek on the east across through Lynnwood and over to Edmonds College. And this will provide a bus every 10 minutes in both directions, connecting riders to the Lynnwood City Center station. You can see there at the lower center of the map. With this project opening, next slide, please. It will become the third of our BRT lines. And this map here shows you that network. Today, we're operating the blue line in the Highway 99 corridor, the green line in the Airport Road corridor and Highway 527 corridor. And then the orange line will join those two in the middle in South County. And what you see on this map is where each of these three lines will connect to the investments that Don described a moment ago. In the center at Lynnwood, you see the connection of the orange line to Lynnwood Link in the terminal station. In the lower left corner, you see where we're extending the blue line, excuse me, over to Shoreline 185th. That'll provide a bus every 10 minutes for residents of Edmonds and Shoreline, almost serving as a shuttle over to the light rail station. And then in Bothell, the green line will extend from Canyon Park down into downtown Bothell to connect with the Stride BRT system that Don described there at the end of his presentation. So we're creating a network that flows commuters into those services across the county line and provides multiple opportunities for people to move around both counties. So this system here forms the bones or the core of our local network. This is the highest quality service we provide. There's a bus every 10 minutes, almost completely throughout the day, beginning early in the morning and running through midnight every night. We'll decrease frequencies a little bit in the middle of the day, but this is the kind of service that doesn't require a schedule. And if you're familiar with it, it's off-board fare payment, digital signage, a high degree of passenger amenities, almost acts like a train on rubber tires. So this is the core of the network, and is sort of step one. Beyond that, then, we will be taking about 30% of the service hours that we've been operating historically, committed to serving downtown Seattle, and we will reinvest those hours within the county and our local network. And that's what this looks like here. So the map on the left shows you a frequency map of our network today. The lines shown in blue are routes that operate today in the 20 to 30 minute frequency range. And the yellow lines are two BRT lines that operate more frequently than 20 minutes. Effective in September of this year, our network map will look like the map on the right. We are increasing significantly the number of all-day routes that operate with 20-minute or better frequency in the core of the county, and increasing as well the number of routes operating with a 20 to 30-minute frequency. So the quality of this network is far beyond what we can offer today, given that we serve downtown Seattle with buses. This network here is starting to get to the point where users throughout the county are no longer going to need to consult a schedule, because they're going to know that that next bus is coming within 15 to 30 minutes. So this should be a game changer, creating new connections, new frequency, new reliability for every community within Snohomish County. That's not just at peak hour. If you take a look at the next slide, this shows how we will sustain that frequency through the middle of the day and during the evenings. Today, on the left, you see almost the same map I showed a moment ago. Service really does scale down in the middle of the day throughout the county. That'll no longer be the case effective next fall. Because of the light rail investment, we'll be able to maintain this service throughout the course of the day in the core of the county. Why this is so important: frequency is probably the single most important factor in determining the utilization of transit by people. On the services we operate frequently today, the Swift Blue Line and the Swift Green Line, ridership on those services has recovered back to pre-pandemic levels. Where we operate less frequent service or commuter service into the city, those services are continuing to struggle. So when people know the bus is coming, when they know they can count on it, they're way more likely to use it. And we think we're going to see that kind of customer response with these network changes in the fall. So in summary, Don covered some of the issues I wanted to flag. We're going to see a major change to the network beginning in March, but really taking full shape in September and continuing into next year, made possible by reinvesting the hours we'll no longer commit to serving downtown. You'll see the Orange Line opening up with that Lynnwood City Center connection. You'll see the extension of the Blue Line. And you'll see a series of new express routes. The 900 series routes, you're probably familiar today with the 400s and the 800s that go downtown. We're going to take those away and replace them with a new series of 900s that are going to be direct express connections from each of the communities within Snohomish County to Lynnwood City Center that operate frequently at peak hour. Don mentioned the constraints on the system based on the two-line falling behind in its schedule and the lack of the ability by Sound Transit to access that rail yard on the east side. That's important. That's probably the biggest risk we're managing right now as far as network functionality. We're not the only ones restructuring our network around the light rail system. Our partners to the south, King County Metro, are doing the same thing, and will be flowing people into the shoreline in 185th and 145th stations. So we'll have a whole lot of folks using the bus to converge on those 4 new stations. So it's really critical at the peak hour that there be enough train capacity to handle that load. And that period between September, when the rail system opens, and about a year beyond that, when that 2-line opens, the system's going to be somewhat constrained. And so we're going to have to work very closely together to manage that, to make sure we're providing a positive customer experience for folks who are moving between the counties. We've made a lot of progress on that in the last couple of months, and look forward to keeping that at the center of our efforts as we get ready to make the big change Labor Day weekend. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to join the Q&A hereafter.
Great. I do have a couple questions that have been posed in the chat. The first one is, Rick, are there any changes or reduction in service planned for the local routes that serve neighborhoods? And that was asked by Samantha Bowes.
We are increasing service. So we are changing the routes that travel downtown. So if you're a 400 user or an 800 user, you're going to see changes to those. We won't be providing a 1-seat ride to downtown anymore. We will be funneling routes to Lynnwood City Center Station and asking people to transfer to the light rail system. That introduces a transfer, which can be seen by customers as an inconvenience, but the trade-off is a more frequent, a travel time improvement and a reliability improvement that comes with getting off of I-5 and using the rail system. But otherwise, those 2 maps I showed you with the blue and yellow lines show how we're going to be increasing frequency countywide.
Great, thank you. And Matt Smith wants to know, what is a transit emphasis corridor?
A transit emphasis corridor is a corridor that we identified in our previous long-range plan about a decade ago, where we identified growing markets that we forecasted at the time would need better transit service in the future. So that's a planning term that we used over the past decade to plan out where we were going to target future investments.
And then finally, Colleen wants to know, do we have a date for the Link 1 light expansion opening?
We don't have the exact date set yet. We do know that it needs to be coordinated with community transit service change Labor Day weekend. So we're working very closely to set that date. Randy Harlow, you want to speak a little bit to the testing activities that are underway now that'll give us better information before setting that date?
Sure, yeah. Our system integration testing efforts kicked off in October and started really in earnest at the turn of the year here with our signals testing to ensure that our trains are capable of making the movements that they need to make in the timetables that they need to make them. And as we move through that process, we're gaining more and more information that gives us a better sense of clarity toward that potential revenue service date. That's still targeted in the late summer, early fall timetable that Dawn was mentioning previously. We do have a lot of testing work left to go, and there's a chance that turns up something unexpected in the process, but we're cautiously optimistic at this stage that we're on track to meet that timetable.
Great. Thank you, Randy, and thank you, Dawn. I'd like to start off by lobbing a couple questions to our panelists. I'd Executive Summers, I'm going to take this one first for you. Can you explain why light rail is so important to Snohomish County and why it matters to our region?
Sure. Thanks, Wendy, and thanks to our panel. And just a note, Mayor Franklin and Mayor Frizzell and I are your board members and happy to answer questions offline at any time. So contact us. There's a lot of moving parts to this whole thing, so happy to do that. But you know, the obvious reasons in my mind, first of all, it gives us a transportation option moving around the region from automobiles and other forms. I don't know how many hours you've spent of your life stuck in traffic, but light rail is going to give us a great option to move around. I've used it fairly frequently now, and it really is a quality of life issue for people to be able to move around the region freely and have options to do so. The second is it really is connecting our centers around the region, centers of commerce, work, employment, and strengthening those bonds. As we grow as a region, we need to make sure that those centers are connected and functioning. People can get to and from them easily. And I think a third reason in my mind is energy efficiency. And as we look for ways to reduce our carbon footprint in our transportation system, light rail, along with the other modes that you've already heard about this morning, really help us in that drive to move efficiently. So a lot of great reasons. It's extremely exciting. Most every major metropolitan area in the world has a transit system like we're building, and so very excited about it. Lots of benefits.
Thank you. I'm going to ask us for anyone on the panel to respond. How do the transportation projects contribute to economic development within Snohomish County, and what opportunities do they create for local business and job growth?
Wendy, I'll jump in. You know, I just at first, thanks to the panelists as well, and reiterate Executive Summers' offer that anyone who has questions about light rail, please feel free to reach out to your 3 board members in Snohomish County. We actually do love digging into this, but to reiterate some of Executive Summers' points, light rail is going to bring billions of dollars of investment into the areas around the station. So as far as how it contributes to the economic development within our community, I mean, those investment dollars are huge, especially in areas, you know, when I think about where it's coming into Everett, the areas of Southwest Everett that haven't received that type of investment ever. So that's going to be a real game changer. I also see the importance of, you know, obviously the access for us to get around, but also access for our local businesses to an additional customer pool, an additional talent pool. Not only do people commute down to King County and the job center there, but people commute up to here. And so it'll also help strengthen and grow our job center and just enhance our competitiveness as a region. As Executive Summers says, other major metropolitan regions have this type of system, and we are going to be stronger for it when it's built as well.
Anyone else want to touch on that?
This, I would add just an economic development observation. You know, in addition to the economic activity that's created by the investment in the capital programs, the increase in service quality and quantity is an economic driver as well. When we're able to change and improve the frequency of our local network to get buses coming to and from every community in Sound Transit, or excuse me, in Snohomish County, 10 to 15 minutes between buses, that's creating a coverage for almost 90% of all the jobs in Snohomish County, and over, you know, 80% or more of the residential areas of Snohomish County. Folks have access to that kind of transportation reliability. Makes it easier for folks to get around, makes it easier for businesses to make decisions to locate here. You know, makes it, reduces some of the pressure on our arterial network to enhance quality of life across the county. So, you know, these are the improvements and the investments we're making to keep Snohomish County competitive and livable. And we should see real dividends from these investments going forward on the economic front.
Great. And I just want to add that Economic Alliance Snohomish County recently did an advanced manufacturing survey where we hold our employers, and the improvements in local network will definitely help with our talent attraction and getting our workers to and from that employment center. So thank you very much. Mayor Franklin, let's stay to you. While only in the planning stages for the project, the Everett Link Extension is well on its way to becoming a reality. Having served on the elected leadership group of this project in phase 1, can you tell us some of the things that you're excited about with this project and what completion of the spine to Everett will mean to Everett and Snohomish County?
Yes, it is coming. I know it feels like it's forever out there still, but it's getting closer and closer. So I already mentioned the billions of dollars of investment, not only each of the station areas, but specifically in South Everett, Southwest Industrial Center. That's going to be a really important investment in an area of our city that hasn't historically seen it. It's going to attract a lot of that transit-oriented development, not only as the stations open and arrive, but long before that. So we'll start to see that economic benefit. But for me, it's really about connecting Everett to the rest of the region. I think there's a lot of misconception of like, we're just trying to get the train to downtown Everett so people from Everett can get to King County. And I'm, yes, of course, I want my commuters to be able to easily get to King County, but I'm really excited to welcome people from the south up to this area. We are a beautiful region. People don't really get how gorgeous and how much we have to offer, and that access of being able to hop on a train in Shoreline and you can go down to our beautiful Port of Everett waterfront, have dinner. You can go watch a baseball game or watch the Aqua Sox. You can, see major attractions like the Shack or the Imagine Children's Museum. It will draw those tourism dollars, and really open up our region in a new way as a destination and a job center. Obviously, the Southwest Industrial stop. People have often said, well, why do we go out there? That is the largest employer in the region. This is the largest Boeing site in the world. We have 35,000 jobs in aerospace out there. And so being able to go out there, and that's also an area of Everett that's really going to grow. And this growth will help us address some of our housing needs as well. So I'm very excited about that. And then lastly, the OMF facility, which doesn't seem that interesting, operations and maintenance facility. It's obviously necessary, as the Sound Transit team shared. But it's 500 highly skilled, high-wage jobs that are going to be right here in our community as well. So a new employment center as well. So very exciting. And I know we're all just holding our breath for it to get here, but it will be here before we know it. And really look forward to celebrating with Mayor Frizzell the opening in Lynnwood next year, or this year.
Yes, this year. Thank you for that, Mayor. Mayor Frizzell, let's talk about that Lynnwood is only months away from seeing the light rail arrive. Can you talk about some of the changes you're seeing around the city in proximity to the light rail investment? And are there new opportunities for folks who live near these huge light rail investments?
Yes, I see the excitement coming, just oozing out of Cassie, and know that it's happening in Lynnwood 10 times larger than that. People in Lynnwood, Malik Terrace, and Shoreline have been excited as month by month they see new changes, new things happening along the rail line, and people from all over Snohomish County are ready as well. So this is not just a milestone for Lynnwood. This is a Snohomish County game changer milestone. When I'm out in community, probably the majority of the questions have to do with light rail. When's it coming? When can we ride? How can we ride? Et cetera, et cetera. And we've done some major improvements on our city roads. Those buses that CEO Ilgenfritz talked about, they are going to be all over Lynnwood. They're going to be all over Snohomish County. And I'm excited that we're looking at zero emission options for those. And we are preparing our roads. If you haven't been down or up to Lynnwood, depending on where you live, 196 is brand new and it's pretty. We buried all of the utility lines. It's very open now, and people are taking advantage of that. We've got more walkable sidewalks, and we've worked with a number of partners to accommodate bike and walking trails so people can get to and from transit other than using their car, other than using their bikes. And retail and apartment buildings will continue to change our landscape. that big open parking lot area is a particular interest to people between 196th and 200th, and from 46th to 44th. That is owned by a developer who is looking to really develop that and put in retail, as well as put in apartment buildings and a park and a new theater and lots of other fun things. So the more that light rail is coming, we see our landscape changing. You'll see thousands and thousands of new trees being put in where Sound Transit had to take out trees in order to accommodate development, but now they are keeping their promise of putting in many more trees than what they took out, and changing our landscape. It changes how we look at our city. Speaking of landscapes, in April, Julie Tim came up and cut the ribbon to the new parking garage. And I was so excited when I went up there and I could see our city from a different point of view. And I went home, I told my kids how beautiful it was, and you could see the light rail, you could see, you know, all the way, well, not all the way to Russia, but you could see a long way. And I just didn't stop talking about it. So Mother's Day was coming up, and my kids, who are just so wonderful, decided that we should celebrate Mother's Day on the top of the parking garage. But they got to see Lynnwood, and they got to see our county in a different way. And so there are opportunities for people to live here. We have a document that I keep in my office from 1993. Some of us, we don't think it was that long ago, but you talk to younger people in our community, they're like, wow, 1993. But back then, we had very visionary people, and they already foresaw the growth. I have maps where, yeah, Sound Transit's going, you know, light rail's going to go here, and we're going to position our multifamily housing over here. So people who choose not to drive or can't afford to drive, or, you know, want to bike and walk, they are going to get to where they want to be. So we expect over 3,000 new apartment units within just a few blocks of the new station, but it's not coming all at once. It's not going to be unmanageable. We have a development agreement for that large parcel of property over the next 20 years. It will be gradual and managed. And then as ST3 comes on board, the next stop will be at the mall. Right now, it's geared, the preferred location is in the Penny's parking lot. Developers have been developing in that area for about the last 5 years. You'll see lots of apartment buildings. There's more to come. And with that comes retail, and with that comes jobs and opportunities for people to thrive. So we look forward also to what Sound Transit calls TOD, or transit-oriented development, which is a lot of that effort is geared towards providing affordable housing, affordable opportunities to accommodate the growth and investment that is blossoming out of our city. I'm just a little excited about it.
I share in your excitement. I mean, it's just an incredible opportunity for our region. I'd love to know how you're preparing your community for these transportation changes and how they will impact the rider experience.
So I've been talking with Sound Transit for about the last year, and talking about, okay, how are we going to get the word out? This coffee chat is a great way to get the word out to our community. We're working with media, we're working with social channels, so we can get the word out that Snohomish County residents, they don't have to drive or bus to Northgate to get to the U, to get to downtown Seattle or SeaTac Airport. As we get closer to opening, we will be messaging our communities of the new alternatives to travel. One thing that Sound Transit Board did recently with the three of us is we will be changing to a flat fare, so that it will no longer be based on short fares necessarily, that just continue. Well, this fare is $2.25, and this fare is $3 and this fare is another amount, but we'll be looking at flat fare alternatives. And we want to make this an easy experience. I was in a Sound Transit rider experience and operations meeting last week, and the talk was, how do we make transit accommodating for people that are sight impaired? And it's not just about Braille, it's about wayfinding signs and experiences, so that we're not serving a small microcosm of our community, but we are trying very hard to be inclusive. And that gets done with partnerships. Gets done with Rick and from Community Transit and Sound Transit and King County Metro, WashDOT. We're working together because none of us are interested in siloing this great effort to get people from where they are to where they want to be.
And Wendy, I want to jump in there a little bit on that and how we're preparing our communities. Obviously, you know, in Lynnwood, it's happening now. So Mayor Frizzell is deep in the work of helping the community understand the service that's available. For us, being at the very end of the line, the last stations that are being built, we have, as frustrating it is to wait this long for light rail, we also have the opportunity to get it right. We've watched the rest of the line, or watching the rest of the line be built. We're seeing how it's been impacting both positively and negatively communities as it comes in, because it's change, right? Growth and change. And Executive Summers talks about this a lot. The only thing that people like less than sprawl is density or growth, you know, and so it's like, we're going to have a lot of growth and change, especially around these stations. But we have the opportunity to do this really well, to do it in collaboration and partnership with our communities, the communities that are being served, and which are also the communities that are going to be impacted. So it's a win, because our communities will have access to transit and access to a really affordable way of getting around. But we'll have businesses, longstanding businesses that have been serving a community, or residential neighborhoods that were quieter and now that are going to be much bigger and more active. And so as we're planning for those stations and those changes, we're doing it in partnership with the community so that we can hopefully hear exactly what the services that they desperately need, they desperately want, what the impacts we're worried about, how we can best mitigate those, how we can protect affordability that already exists, expand affordability, and how we can also protect affordability of commercial affordability in some of these areas, especially the areas in Southwest Everett that are serving our historically underserved communities of color. We want to make sure that their community remains a vibrant, culturally diverse business center that is now served by light rail. So I'm excited by that opportunity. And again, the wait is frustrating, but we are engaging our community now really early so that we can do this right when the stations are built here.
Wendy, I know Rick has his hand up, but there was a question in chat about when people can give input, and we've just started an environmental impact process on the extension from Lynnwood to Everett, and maybe Don could just extremely briefly talk about the schedule for that, when people will be able to comment on that extension.
Yeah, there's actually conceptual engineering planning work going on and opportunities to engage in that work this year. I'll ask Eric Widstrand to put some more specific information in the chat for folks that want to learn more about that.
Thanks, Don. Rick, did you want to share something?
Yeah, just real briefly on the question of how we're helping people prepare for the opening of Lynnwood Link at the rider level. I wanted to build on the mayor's comments, both mayors' comments. We have just launched a coordinated marketing and outreach campaign in support of the Orange Line opening and the March service change. That is a fully integrated outreach program based on social media channels, paid media channels, and good old-fashioned boots on the ground outreach at transit centers and park and ride lots. That you should start to see that here in your channels as you're going about your daily business. We are engaged with Sound Transit to implement a joint marketing campaign for the fall service change to help customers learn how to access light rail and how to use light rail. The bulk of the folks who use Lynnwood Link will get there on a community transit bus or a Sound Transit bus operated by community transit. And so the experience of transferring from rail to bus and bus to rail, the experience of being in downtown Lynnwood will be new for many, many people. And so our job together as the agencies is to help our customers through that transition. So we're going to have a fully staffed effort to help folks manage that change, to learn how to use the system, to navigate and wayfind at the various different stations and park and ride lots and understand the transfer experience. So that's a big part of this, and it's a huge part of our preparations.
I want to add a question that we received in the chat from Savannah, and she was saying, coming from a hotelier in Lynnwood, will there be a coordinated marketing effort between ST and local hotels, events, businesses to showcase additional options for out-of-town conferences and getting large event business into Snohomish County? Mayor, you want to touch on that real quick?
The easy answer is yes. We haven't got things laid out. I've met with our Chamber of Commerce. We'll be reaching out to the hotels, obviously, for those purposes, because our hotels are less expensive than they are in Seattle, and there's so much that people can do to enjoy the Snohomish County that we want to bring people here. We want to bring businesses, people to businesses. Yes, we will be connecting with all of our hotels and those that choose to do business here in Lynnwood. Yeah, we have a new Chamber of Commerce president, and I'm excited to get Frank going on all of those proposals.
Very good. Dawn, let's move over to you. For those planning to use light rail, issues around public safety come to mind. What is ST doing to ensure ridership safety?
Well, when I think about that question, I think about it first from being a rider myself. And, I did use public transit some in the depths of the pandemic when ridership was quite low. And it's a very different experience to be on public transit when there's not other riders there with you, or very few other riders there with you. So I think one of the best things for transit right now is that ridership is coming back. When you ride our trains and buses today, it is a very different experience than what it was a few years ago. So that's number one. Number two is the Sound Transit Board last year did make a decision to hire additional security contractors. And so we've been able to step up, security safety presence on our trains and stations. And that makes a big difference as well, particularly in those, late night, early morning hours when there may be fewer riders.
Thank you. Randy, can I throw one over to you? Since light rail is coming to Snohomish County, it's a game changer for our community. Can you give us an update on some of the milestones achieved so far regarding sound transit transportation projects in Snohomish County?
Sure. A lot of those other non-Lynnwood Link projects have already been mentioned by some of the panelists. Don mentioned the commencement of construction of the Stride bus rapid transit line, for example, and Mayor Frizzell still probably the biggest milestone that we've seen on Lynnwood Link relative to completion of projects, and that's the opening to the public of that parking garage there at the Lynnwood City Center. In addition, Mayor Frizzell touched on some of the transit-oriented development going on. A lot of that is being done by private developers, but we have, as Sound Transit, also started work toward a transit-oriented development effort there at the north end of the Lynnwood City Center just this year. And so we'll see that kind of coming to fruition over the next few years as well. Probably one of the most obvious projects going on right now in the city of Lynnwood specifically is our work on the 200th Street Southwest. That work is intended to improve a lot of the traffic and transit circulation as we get ready to open up the full light rail line here in summer or fall. And then we've also been working closely with community transit to facilitate a refresh of sorts of the transit center itself, and then integration of swift stops at our transit centers along the Lynnwood Link Extension. Hopefully that answers the question.
Appreciate it. Thanks. We only have time for one more question. I wanted to kind of lob this one over to perhaps Mayor Franklin or Executive Summers. Dwayne Leonard from Hasco would love to know what is being done now to secure land for housing around the transit center locations. Mayor Frizzell mentioned the 3,000 new housing stops. How are you preparing?
Executive, we can rock, paper, scissors. Do you want to go first and I'll pick it up?
Well, just extremely briefly, one thing we're looking at, we've got a meeting later today, is there's a provisional station at Airport Way 99 that is going to be studied in the environmental process, but isn't funded. And we're looking for opportunities to get private investment, public-private partnership for that very reason, is to not only have a transit stop, but also housing, businesses, mixed-use type of development there. So we're very much interested in exploring public-private partnerships on that. And Mayor, go ahead. I'll give you the rest of the time.
Yeah, I'll just, so great question, Dwayne, and I'll be hoping to work with you as well as, Everett Housing Authority, other affordable housing developers. We have a lot of naturally occurring affordable housing in the South Everett area of where these stations are going to be located, but we'll very likely lose that if we don't secure it now for the long term. And we'll be working with affordable housing developers to try to both preserve what we have, but also plan projects in those station areas. And I know Sound Transit has just been a leader. You've seen it throughout the parts of the line to the south of us, where each of these station locations includes affordable housing developments, transit-oriented, so it's all walkable, livable communities. We will be working to do that very same thing here. But again, as I said, at the end of the line, my concern is that we preserve what we have while we grow. And so we're going to have to do that in partnership with organizations like yours and many others. So look forward to working with you as this moves ahead.
Mayor Frizzell, do you want to touch on anything more about affordable housing or obtaining land?
No, I think Dave and Cassie have covered that well. I would like to do just a shout out to all of the folks that have helped build this line. I mean, we make the decisions and we get to stand up there and cut ribbons, but it's really the men and women that have worked day in, day out in the heat, in the snow, in the sleet, that have really given life to this project. And I just can't say enough about the union jobs that are created through this project and the many others that go on, not just Sound Transit, but all of this other development that's going on.
Yeah, well said.
Okay, definitely well said.
Well, again, I would like to thank our coffee chat sponsor today, the Boeing Company, and special thank you to our panel of experts for joining us. For those who registered for today's installment of Coffee Chats via Eventbrite, check your inbox later today for a list of resources from this discussion, as well as a link to the recording should you want to rewatch or share it later. Before we go, I have a few announcements from Economic Alliance Snohomish County. On February 21st, we are pleased to present the 2024 Economic Forecast and Annual Meeting in partnership with Banner Bank, the Boeing Company, Alaska Airlines, and Herald Media. This annual event delves into the economic development initiatives driving growth within Snohomish County and provides forecasts offering a comprehensive outlook for the year ahead. You can scan the QR code on your screen now or visit economicalliancesc.org/events to register today. And on March 21st, Economic Alliance Snohomish County is pleased to host the annual State of the City from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Everett Mall. It's presented by the Boeing Company and Mortensen Construction, and you'll join business and community leaders from around the region as Mayor Cassie Franklin shares her direction for the city of Everett and highlights the exciting revitalization efforts that are currently underway. You can scan the QR code on your screen now or visit economicalliancesc.org/events to register today. Early bird pricing is available through February 16th. To conclude, please get your coffee mugs ready and let us adjust our gallery view so we can see all your faces. Now I forgot to get coffee and water. Now let's raise our coffees and cheers to another great discussion this morning. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, thanks again.